Match of the Year candidates. This one has to be at the top of the list, and that's why, again, we'll go back to saying this should have been the match that should have closed WrestleMania, especially off the pop. Shane McMahon got the night for Fastlane when he returned, when Stephanie was the recipient of the McMahon Legacy Award, and then he comes out and says he wants control of WWE. I don't think anybody expected Shane McMahon to return over 7 or 8 years after he had left control of the company in the hands of his sister and Triple H the way that he did. He told them that if they wanted to run Raw the way they wanted to or saw fit, they could have after Stephanie slapped Shane in the face. We never heard talk of Shane McMahon for years. And now all of a sudden he's pulling a rock and he's back after 7 or 8 years, which is pretty amazing. And just the pop that he got, I don't think it was Shane McMahon expected the reaction that he got. I thought, probably he thought that he was just going to get a reaction, somewhat of a little pop, and people were just going to shrug it off. That Shane McMahon was back. Okay, Shane McMahon's back, but after 7 or 8 years to get the reaction that he did, he got the reaction of a Bruno Sammartino or a Hulk Hogan or a Macho Man Randy Savage or an Ultimate Warrior, which is a lot, probably an even bigger response than an Ultimate Warrior or even an Undertaker would have received. So off that reaction, for people who believe that this may be it for Shane McMahon, I think that is kind of jumping to a conclusion, drawing a conclusion that doesn't need to be drawn at this point in time. Because, Shane McMahon has proven to me that he can still get in the ring and wrestle with the best of them, and we could probably be seeing a rematch between Shane McMahon and The Undertaker or some other individual who Shane McMahon has an issue with. Probably even Shane McMahon versus Triple H, which I initially thought was probably going to be the main event of WrestleMania this year because of Shane McMahon's return and how Shane McMahon got one of the biggest reactions of the night. But The Undertaker's opponent was still out there. There have been nothing confirmed for The Undertaker to do, and I think this is just a way for WWE to slow down putting The Undertaker in the ring year after year at WrestleMania. And obviously you could tell in that match that he wasn't really taking it as hard on Shane as he did other opponents he had at WrestleMania, because it was considered the one night of the year The Undertaker was unbeatable and impenetrable, and I guess he was just trying to slow it down a little bit with Shane McMahon. And you could just tell in that match, they were both busted open, but they were still taking it easy on each other, and that's something to take into consideration. So I think that with how Shane had it taken easy on him, we will see Shane McMahon back in the ring at some point in time. When, where, and how, what the circumstances will be for Shane to return to the ring, I don't know. And I don't think we'll see Shane go the way of becoming champion or anything like that if it's not the Raw General Manager position. But I think Vince McMahon, after the performance he gave us at WrestleMania and just how much he wanted to run Raw, is starting to realize how much Shane wants to be a part of the business. And now at 70 years old, I think that Vince McMahon is just putting into perspective, his life, everything he's done, and just wanting somebody to run the company the same way that he would outside of Triple H and Stephanie. I mean, there's no denying the ratings are down because of Triple H and Stephanie, and something had to be done. So obviously they offered Shane McMahon a lot of money to come back and do what he did, and you better believe that he did not come back to lose one match, to have one match and lose the same way of Sting, because it was a different circumstance. There was going to be another time we are going to see Shane McMahon rise above everything, the authority, everything going on in WWE, because if you tell the everyday wrestling fan in a conversation, what would you prefer, seeing the authority running the show or the authority gone? Everybody believes in an everyday conversation with the everyday wrestling fan. The authority had to go for a long time because of the ratings and the same kind of thing, reiterating the fact of what happened during the early thousands, during the McMahon-Helmsley era. Nobody was a fan of every main event of Raw being a no DQ match because of Triple H and Stephanie running the show and calling the shots the way that they were, and that put wrestling fans in the mind of a lot of things that were happening from 10 or 15 years ago. So it's the same kind of inadequate concept being reiterated at the end of the day. So obviously something had to change, and there's no doubt in my mind that eventually, probably by July or August, by SummerSlam time, things will change, because that's the next 4-hour major event, and when we could be seeing matches with major stipulations that could change the complexity of the entire corporation, which we thought would have happened at WrestleMania 32. And the question that I have, off the incredible performances of Roman Reigns, Triple H, Shane McMahon, and The Undertaker in 2 incredible WrestleMania main events, did WrestleMania live up to all its hype and beyond the hype that it had going into WrestleMania? And did you come away from WrestleMania just as excited and satisfied with what WrestleMania gave us, or do you think that this is the worst WrestleMania we have seen probably since WrestleMania 27 through 22, from a difference of 10 years ago? I know from reading a lot of opinions of a lot of legends like Bret Hart, they had said, this is the worst WrestleMania setup that we had seen in years. But I don't necessarily concur with Bret Hart's opinion, because Bret Hart's opinion has always seemed to be a little bit out there. Okay, he survived cancer. He's 99% sure he's got a future that's more promising than what he had prior to his surgery. So now he's shooting off about, things like WrestleMania 32 being the worst WrestleMania card that we had seen in years. On paper, I will admit to you, seeing a 7-man ladder match with Kevin Owens as defending Intercontinental Champion with opponents like Zack Ryder and Sin Cara, that was not as appealing to me as anything else on WrestleMania or the women's match or anything like that. Statistically, the women's match probably was the best one on the card, and I will admit to you on paper, this year's WrestleMania really was not something that I was looking forward to. I've looked forward to WrestleManias in the past more than I have this one, and who can blame me for feeling the way that I did, because WrestleMania 32 this year was offering us nothing from the perspective and point of view of a wrestling fan. So, I understand how people felt about it, but I think WrestleMania lived above and beyond the expectations of a lot of people out there who had more time in criticizing WrestleMania 32, found more time in doing that than giving it the benefit of the doubt or putting it over. And I was one person who put WrestleMania over by rating it 4 out of 10 stars, while some people out there were giving it 2, 3, really having a lot of doubt about WrestleMania. But I think WrestleMania 32, really came through, and that's why I'm looking forward to WrestleMania 33 next year and seeing how Shane McMahon and Vince McMahon, everybody, will factor into the show next year. Shane McMahon and The Undertaker, I give you guys the benefit of the doubt and credit where you definitely deserved it. This match was over the top. The end result was The Undertaker defeating Shane McMahon, but that does not mean or go without any certainty that Shane will have the future in WWE, because I think that is something that's pretty much cemented off of the incredible job he did in the fallout of WrestleMania 32, running his first run over 6 or 7 years. He did a great job and gave AJ Styles and Roman Reigns a chance to steal the show, and we're going to be seeing that coming up over the next couple of weeks with AJ Styles deemed the responsibility now of being the number one contender. Really excited about this. And the funny thing is, I'm so excited off Shane McMahon's return, I haven't even written a column for In This Corner with Jonathan Clarke, which I promise you I will get around to doing so to coincide with this video blog. So if you have a thought, you can give it to me in the comments of this video on my YouTube channel, and subscribe. Don't forget to do so at Jonathan Clarke 22. Follow me on Twitter at Jonathan Clarke 1. Subscribe to me on Facebook and Google Plus at the same, HEW Entertainment, and give me your thoughts if you got any on Shane McMahon's return off his loss to The Undertaker, which was to be expected, because I don't think anybody thought Shane was going to defeat The Undertaker, and if they did, the number of people who thought Shane was going to defeat The Undertaker were definitely outnumbered by the people who knew The Undertaker was going to win this match. And what it comes down to at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, is just one of those things that you knew emphatically was going to happen. I mean, there was no way The Undertaker was going to lie down for Shane McMahon, even though the money probably would have been there and thrown out for The Undertaker to lie down to Shane McMahon. That was not happening anytime soon, and I think we will see many WrestleManias with The Undertaker headlining them for many years to come. Probably a final match at WrestleMania for The Undertaker in the next few years, against who we don't know, but at least we know the futures of both McMahon and The Undertaker are more clearer than they were going in out of WrestleMania, and I think that's something that should give us a great deal of satisfaction. I'm your host, Jonathan Clarke, and I will talk to you again next week. Like what you hear? Tell us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Don't go anywhere. HEW Entertainment Radio will return with the latest news, music, interviews, discussion, and Jonathan Clarke next.
When something takes place in the world of professional wrestling, you know where to go. WrestleZone.com. WrestleZone.com. Covering all the latest breaking news daily. Interactive forums where you can chat with thousands of other wrestling fans. Exclusive editorials and audio features by some of today's top wrestling superstars. Exclusive video content, weekly polls, live play-by-play coverage of every WWE and TNA pay-per-view. And now, featuring WrestleZone Radio, live with news, in-depth discussions, debates, and interviews with wrestling's top stars, past and present. When you think wrestling, think WrestleZone. WrestleZone.com.
He considers himself God's gift to wrestling, and millions of his faithful agree. With nearly 4 hours of footage and exclusive commentary and matches, this DVD chronicles Daniel's rise from Chicago's Windy City Wrestling to the Asylum in Nashville, and finally to the top of TNA. TNA Home Video presents Heaven Sent, Hell Bound, the best